Hi, my name is R.Drada, and I'm here to present to you my preview of a series called Wild Blue Sky, which is a series of mainly abstract sky paintings. A bit about me. I'm originally from the US, which influences a lot of my art and the themes. Originally from New Jersey, small suburban place. And then I lived for 11 years in New York City. And my first studio was in Bushwick. And now I'm in Berlin for 5 years. This is where I was first educated at the Art Students League in New York. And on top of that, I also run a artist meetup group. So, why do I do this? Why do I make these abstract sky paintings, as I'll show you later? The first thing I want to talk about is I'm a bit of an idealistic person, and I think a lot of people in Berlin can appreciate this. A lot of the reasons why I use sky and clouds as a backdrop for my visualization of how ideals, get changed throughout your life as you become disillusioned or upset, or maybe you return to them again. So it was part of documenting my journey of how that felt. A second part of the reason why I use sky and clouds is a visualization of freedom, because when we think of freedom and we see that limitless blue sky, it seems infinite to us. And at the very same time, even when we have that blue sky, it seems sort of unachievable. It's above our heads. And when I was making these paintings, I was thinking about freedom. As an American, it's always pushed into your face. People are always talking about, okay, I should have the freedom to say whatever I want, freedom to do whatever I want. But what that means in my life when I was thinking about, how can I achieve more freedom? It just confused me. I had no idea because, of various forces that you all have. Capitalism, you have to work, your schedule is determined by your job. Maybe you have your freedom when it comes to the weekends or at nighttime. I didn't understand what that really meant about achieving more freedom in my own life. And that really informed my works, because you'll see they're not this kind of skies that you might see in American car commercials, beautiful, endless. They're always sort of frustrated, trapped. There's anxiety, and a part of the reason why I wanted to do that is also because I wanted to just record my own feelings about this journey. So I'll just go over that. And one thing that I really loved when I was creating these oil paintings is that a lot of times, we think of our anxieties as something very negative, something to get away from and run away from. Except I'll never get rid of them. But one thing I did find exciting is that when I would put my anxieties into my own work, and I can make them aesthetically interesting to myself, of course, they became more acceptable to me. They almost became strangely beautiful, because they're very fragile. In my own works, I represented anxieties about the pursuit of freedom, my idealistic journey, through very thin spidery lines, and I'll point those out to you. I'll just go to the next one. 3 more times? Oh, sorry. Okay, well, I'll just go. Here I show you just my sort of visual inspiration of, everyday things that we might see that just divide up the sky. And I've replicated a lot of that in the works. I mean, I love the strong symmetry of the Brooklyn Bridge. That's quite amazing. But it's also interesting how it slices up the sky, something that we want to believe is limitless. And I think it's a good representation of our modern condition. Also, the lines on the ship and power lines. So these are two works, Repeating Sky and Desperate Skies. And, you know, as I was talking about this anxiety lines, you see a lot of flailing lines representing that anxiety as we pursue freedom. There's nothing to hold on to in the sky. And here I've just tried to use the clouds as a way to just show this confusion and fogginess in this sort of journey. And Shattered Sky and Sky Extrusion Process, this really kind of dates back to this feeling of, you know, maybe you think about it yourself in your own experience when you had ideals as a child, such as fairness or justice, and perhaps when you would read the news and you hear about some horrible scandal and how that felt, that shattering of those ideals for you. That's what I'm trying to represent here. With Sky Extrusion Process, I was really thinking about instances where we feel like our emotions are just too great for how these ideals are being treated in the world, right? Big Bruised Cloud and Broken Blue Sky are also tracing that theme, which is that feeling of your ideals feeling bruised or injured or shattered. This is a blue sky and red altar. And this is definitely some more elements of anger coming out in this piece. I think when I talk about these ideals, and maybe it helps to know a little bit about my own background, which is I grew up in under like a traditional Asian mindset, which is always more about security and not really at all about freedoms. And growing up in the US, which is, you know, freedom is thrown in your face in every commercial, every movie, this kind of created this inner conflict, which you can see here. Laughter of the Gods is a larger piece, and with the clouds, I've just tried to represent, you know, when people have different ideas of freedoms, when those conflict, it can become quite a nasty process. And so I depicted this as, you know, turbulent heavens. Back to that sort of claustrophobic feeling that people can have when they're trying to obtain more freedom in their lives. That's what I explored in Crowded Sky and Freezing Sky. And also touching upon that is a larger acrylic on canvas work that I did, where I was inspired by sort of industrial gratings, and these clouds are trying to sort of come out of those obstacles, but they're still trapped. Lastly, a piece in progress is Artificial Sky. This is oil on linen, and I always use these kind of grids and geometric shapes to create sort of a mysterious scene, because I still think that freedom is just such an elusive thing to obtain. So for where this will all be exhibited, it will be exhibited in the Denizen co-working space in September, definitely post Art Week. I don't want to compete with that. And as for my parting words, I wanted to go into what I will be exploring in the future, which is also a bit stemming from growing up in this US culture. I've really planned to focus on themes of fraud and shame, and also comedy as well. So something a little bit lighter. Okay, that is my speech, and thank you, OPSI Project.
Thank you for the presentation. I could relate a lot to it, being Asian myself. I find your works very inspiring in the sense that, I'm interested in your process, especially the medium. Would you say that you consciously choose the medium, or how do you arrive at choosing what you want to use to the materials, and does it affect the work, what you choose, your materials?
Yeah, thank you for the question. I didn't go into that, but I only use, well, there was one example of acrylic painting, but primarily it's oil painting. How it affects my work, what I really do love about it is that I work very slowly, and I can just build up the layers over time, and that's what I like about with oil is that, of course, you can change things around while they're still wet and still kind of make it look more uniform at the end. I also love the thickness of it. I still try to keep sort of a rawness in my work because it's about feeling pain. So.
Thank you. So I just wondered about because you choose the topic of freedom, and the freedom is kind of a cliche, particularly the American one. So I'm just wondering how you battle this, so it doesn't feel like cliche. Do you do research, or what's your concept or strategy to battle that? Yeah, to battle the cliche of freedom.
I think maybe this sounds arrogant, but I feel like I've gotten at least away from the cliched images of freedom because these are not representations of like happy blue skies or perfect blue skies. They're all very frustrated and cracked. But right, I feel like that's like a perpetual problem is I always have to try to avoid kind of cheesiness as an artist overall. And yeah.
It's a beautiful work. Congratulations. But my question is not exactly about the work, but I would like to know, do you feel more free in Berlin than you did in the US? Because I was in a panel in another event with an American person, and it was about freedom. And the person was living here for 8 years. And she was asked if she felt more free in Berlin than the US. And she said, yes. And I said, but this is Berlin. It's not Germany. You mean Berlin.
Okay, this is the part where I try not to talk too meanly about the US, but I definitely do feel more free in Berlin. I mean, one, because I'm able to find and speak to other artists that understand the struggle that I'm going through. So when I tell them about what I'm doing at that moment, they completely understand. Whereas when I was in New York City, I always felt that everybody was just focused on brunch or consuming something or watching a movie that, I hate passively waiting for, someone else to create culture that I happen to like. And apart from that, I mean, living in New York City, it was just so hard to not think about money and success. And here, I feel like people are definitely not focused on that all of the time. And that is definitely very freeing in itself, even if my time and schedule are not always full of free time. Definitely just being around similar mindsets is a big relief.
continue to that. I mean, I think the sky is the same here. I'm from New York, but the sky is the same. So what's the point of your being here painting same sky, and maybe your daily life is more, I don't know. But so how do you see your subject? It's universal, right? And it's also, it's nature. It's a science. We understand it has less gravity, so they are floating the clouds. So sky, you paint sky, but you paint clouds. So how do you see this universal subject in different location? I think your subject matter is freedom. I mean, I don't know. It's like words and painting can be complementing. They complement instead of representing. So I guess your freedom means it's not your subject matter. It's more like they go together, like helping each other to understand. So the question is, how do you see the sky here?
Well, I mean, when it comes to painting these skies, I actually don't really use a lot of reference images, so I don't feel that, okay, actually in New York I wasn't painting skies, so it's more of just a reporting of, it's true, the skies are not representing freedom in themselves, but they are really meant to represent how I feel as I try to think about how to pursue freedom. And I guess it's always coming out in a sort of negative way and feeling trapped. I guess it's more of like, if I can use a Kafkaesque feeling when I'm trying to obtain more freedom in my life. But yeah, I'm not using natural references so much, so it doesn't really, I don't really refer to them.
So you feel more free when you look up, or like how do you find the freedom of the sky? Like your imagination is free, or?
Whether I feel free when I look up in the sky. No, I think when I look up in the sky, I think like at most people, I'm just looking to see how the weather is, how it might make me feel. Actually, sometimes when I do see a perfect sky, I feel like there is pressure for me to go outside and enjoy it before it changes again. And it's kind of at odds with my artwork, so I feel like if it's terrible outside, that's better for me, actually.
You were talking about stability and about how important that is. I'm just wondering, like when you came out as an artist, this must have been a real conflict, stability and being an artist. So I'm just curious, like how your artworks or your process of creating artwork and your works have changed when you really claimed yourself as an artist.
Okay, I have to reveal I'm not a full-time artist, so so I still rely on a day job. But yeah, I hope eventually, and I feel like this is a great thing about Germany, is that I can convert my job from full-time to part-time, and that will give me more time to be an artist. But for now, I am still totally dependent on my day job. I guess it's in transition from just having this one full-time job and also becoming an artist alongside of that. In the beginning, I felt, yeah, it was quite difficult because I had to just change my mindset about like, it's fine to explore, to learn. I wanted to become so good right away. Now I'm way more relaxed and a lot less dramatic in my head. But I still find, time from time to time to justify it, especially with people who do not do creative things in their everyday lives. They don't seem to understand. I touched upon my parents, my upbringing before about this seeking stability. And I think for one of my parents, it's still very hard for them to understand. But I accept that.